You see, I'm talking for no reason. I'm talking for no reason. That was all muted. This is some bull. So I'm calling this story The Bone Lady. The people involved in this story have chosen to be anonymous, so we will call them Mary and Tony. Mary worked in a hospital as an RN, so she had busy days, as you can imagine. The long shifts would force her to seek camaraderie and friendship at work. And in time, there was one coworker in particular that was really close and always seemed to be wanting to keep Mary around. She would invite her to places after work, plan activities to hang out, even had her helping her look for apartments in secret. And it felt harmless, but a bit obsessive at the same time. So Mary felt like, a little weird, but it's okay. It might just be like a clingy friend, right? But Mary did feel like it was almost intentionally like she was trying to keep her from going home and spending time with Tony. So one day, while Tony was at home, he went out to check the mail and noticed something strange. There was some weird stuff that was on the floor. So he kind of took a close look at it to see what it was, and it turned out to be rice just thrown all over the place, kind of like at the entries of the door. And there was like some oranges. I don't know if they were orange peels or if they were just oranges or rotten oranges. I don't know the details on that. But I will say, since I heard this story, I researched this a little bit. And if you know about this stuff, please feel free to correct me. I have no idea. I'm just Googling, okay? TikTok and stuff. Apparently, what was there was oranges and rice. Now, these are two things that are used in witchcraft, is what I saw. But they could be used for different things. They could be used in a positive way or a negative way. So the rice itself could be used in a positive way, but it could also be used for hexes and to try to basically make somebody feel sick. So it could be used in a way to like harm somebody. The oranges, from what I saw, it looks like it's a positive thing. The oranges were used for making somebody fall in love or to expedite the process of falling for somebody. So kind of weird to see those two things. So back to the story. Sorry. So it was some sort of oranges and rice that was thrown around. Tony thought it was strange and brought it to Mary's attention. Mary was clueless about the scenario and assumed it was some sort of vandalism. Probably some kids that had done some random just throwing crap. People do this, usually with eggs, but rice, oranges, I understand. She didn't give it too much thought. But Tony had a bad feeling about it. Now, Tony's sister happened to be a little familiar with these sort of things. So he mentioned it to her. It's like, hey, I found these items around the house. Do you think they mean anything to you, or do they mean anything? His sister responded and let him know that she believed that someone was practicing some black magic on them and had intentions of splitting the couple up. She also, since she was familiar with these things, knew somebody that was able to do a reverse spell. So she offered to counter the brujeria and help remove the curse that was placed on the young couple. So a few days go by, and they're both asleep, Tony and Mary. So as they're asleep in bed, Mary is suddenly awakened with the sound of wind chimes. But it's not your typical metal wind chimes that you would hear that have like a, like a loud ringing sound. It almost sounded like it was some wooden chimes. It was kind of like a hollow sound. Kind of like you're getting two hollow sticks and just kind of smacking them together. So she heard this sound, and it started off very light and slowly got louder and louder and louder. So as the sound was getting louder, she turned her focus to the bedroom door, which was open, and the dark hallway where the noise was coming from. And she slowly noticed a figure appearing from the darkness that started making shape slowly. Mary describes the figure as tall, with a black robe on, and it slowly crept its way into the room. As it crept into the room, you could hear the hollow sound of bones hitting each other. As the figure slowly walked its way to Tony's side of the bed. So that sound she was hearing wasn't chimes, it was actually the bones of this figure that was moving and walking. Sorry, let's get back to it. So as the figure slowly walked its way to Tony's side of the bed, Mary laid there in horror. She had fear in her eyes. She tried to keep her breath shallow so she wouldn't draw any attention to herself. And what she did is she kind of did that thing, I'm sure we've all done this, where you squint your eyes and you squint them just enough to where you could see through them, but it looks like they're closed. So she did this, but kept her eyes on the figure to see what the hell it's doing. So she did this so she could appear to be asleep, but kept her eyes on the figure as it hovered over her husband. The figure appeared to be examining him as he slept. The figure suddenly had two bony hands that reached out from its robe, started hovering over the husband. It almost appeared like it wanted to touch the husband. But in the middle of doing this movement, the figure stopped abruptly and looked up directly into Mary's direction. She had been noticed. The figure slowly made its way to her side of the bed with that same sound of clanking bones as it moved to her side of the bed. Mary closed her eyes to avoid making eye contact as her heart was racing and beating like a drum. The next thing she remembers, she just blacked out. Next thing you know, she's awake in her bed. It's the next morning, and she's just asking herself, what the hell was that? What did she experience? Was it a dream? Was it real? Was it some sort of sleep paralysis? So the next time she was with her sister-in-law, she brought up the experience to her. And her sister-in-law just replied and said, "She came to see you. You should be honored. Not everyone gets visited by La Santa Muerte."